Hello, everybody. For the third time today, this is Ivor Chester, your balance coach. We're having some serious communication issues, technically, and which I call a rotten segue to the very topic that we were discussing. Now, yesterday, doing a little recap, uh, yesterday I was speaking to you from an isolation room or a seclusion room at the psych hospital I work at. Now, uh, people go in there, or let me put that better, people are put in there normally against their will because they're not outworking their communications, how they feel, what they're doing in appropriate ways. So they have to be isolated for their own safety and the safety of others. I don't want that to happen to you. Sometimes I've actually gone in the room with the patient to help them de-escalate. I brought in just myself. I brought in a dog that I had at the time. I brought in a guitar, and I was successful most of the time. Having said that, we were talking about arguing and how to appropriately get your points across without inflaming the issue even more and bringing emotions into it that normally escalate this. Today, we're going to have even a greater step back, though. We're going to talk about the communication loop. Now, my good wife has this posted, if you can see it. It's the communication loop. She has this in our kitchen. Our kitchen looks like a, a well-traveled highway with lots of billboards on it. There's biblical quotes and there's affirmations and a lot of really great things up there and bits of information like what we're going to talk about today. This is something that I work on. I need to work on more on both aspects of this. So let's go ahead and dig right in. We're going to talk about first the message out, what you say it. Now, this is not just what's coming out of your mouth, or should I say the sentence that you're reading. Like if you were reading a book and you were just reading the words, this is also your gesticulations, your expression, your body posture, how you're holding yourself, known as also body language, and the proximity to the person. If you're a little too close and you're kind of in their boundaries, that's uncomfortable. So there are lots of ways to get your message out, and you have to be aware of them. So let's start with about the verbal encoding, the message out, which is first how you say things. I'm a very passionate man about a lot of things, and sometimes my words come out a bit edgy. I think it's how they say it these days. Now, do I intend to be edgy? Well, probably a little. I really want people to understand about certain things. And by understanding that my words do come out edgy, there's some things I just don't say anymore. I don't talk a lot about politics with most people because I don't want to inflame them. I find that talking politics, even with good friends, is uncomfortable and it's not purposeful. Most people already have their minds made up about politics, so why get, because it normally just descends, de escalates, or escalates, I should say, or descends into just an argument. And it's not a purposeful argument. You're not going to change anybody's mind. But when you send that message out, there's a lot about how you say it, and that includes again the rate of speech, the volume of speech, the words that you use. Are you pushing a verb, an adjective against a noun? Are you saying it with too much gesticulation? Are you really making some good eye contact? Eye contact can be up to 80% and still be comfortable, but you don't want to be a Charles Manson on it, right? You want to have various different ways of approaching various different people because you're taking people who are probably in your superficial or higher batch and drawing them further into your social funnel. That's important because you're providing support for people and you're getting support. It's part of that loop. So you have to watch how you encode things and be aware that sometimes we need to tone down our message. Um, I was a pastor of a church. My sermons reached people. On the other hand, there were people that never reached because it just was not an effective mode of speaking to some of these people. I had to accept that, and I had to learn to adjust my speaking to where I could be understood by as many people as possible, not just how I felt the message had to be put out there. Now, the other part of this loop, because we have encoding, the message coming out, which again is verbal, and understand that verbal communication is really only a single digit. So your rate of speech, when I, years ago, I traveled up to Delaware as a kid, I was like 14, and the kids up there had a field day with my twang, my Texas twang. At that time, I really wasn't working on changing that because I hadn't really decided what I want to do with my living. And I wanted, years later, decided I wanted to become a DJ at a radio station and speak, but I wanted to get rid of that twang. Then, several years after that, I went to England, and the locals in England said, "My goodness, where are you from?" And I wouldn't tell them I was from Dallas. However, one time I did say, "Yes, I'm from Dallas, Texas." And a guy actually said, "Do I have an oil well?" And he was serious. "And do I have a horse?" They were surprised that I was from Texas without the accent because I had worked on it since then. So how you encode things will help you open doors that normally would be closed to you if you're just going to always do it your way. Remember that concept. Well, people just have to love me the way I am. No, they don't. God will. But even so, we're expected to be sanctified, as it would be, according to our walk in the Spirit. Now, the other part, the decoding, which is how people talk to you. The higher up you are in this social funnel, the superficial people are going to have a little bit less grace than, or even a great deal, less grace than the people down in the base of your funnel where they're intimate with you. Down here, people are going to give you more of that grace and understanding. Well, that's just the way Ivor speaks, or I know he's been tired, or I know he's struggling with a divorce, he's struggling with the kids, he's struggling with the job, whatever it is. People down here will give you that grace. People up here won't, because they have less invested in you. Up here they do. Down here they do. On the other hand, the problem with down in the base is that there are preconceived notions or presuppositions that you may have about this person because you've known them a long time. And if you're at odds with them right now, like say it's family, you'll say, well, I'm never going to trust them again after that. Oh, I'm never going to forgive them. I'm going to have real issues with that. Then you're going to have to struggle with bursting that bubble of a preconceived notion if you really want to understand people. You have to give them that grace, give them that understanding. Now, for those of us who are in the process of change, remember, as I've discussed recently, change has three parts: an ending, a process, and then an end, a beginning. Again, that's an ending, a process, and a beginning. As we continue to go through process of changes, which happen a lot, for those of us maturing and adjusting and trying to overcome, people around us are going to be uncomfortable with those changes. Grace is going to be required by them and a degree of explanation by us to say, I'm really working on this and I haven't quite got it down. People in the intimate pile will get that and will be a little irritated with you, but they'll love you and understand. Don't expect that understanding higher up. You might have some good people up there, but they may not get that. Give them the grace, people. If you're with somebody who's really going through it, I have a lot of patients and clients that are trying to change their lives, and it is a struggle for their family and struggle for their loved ones and struggle for them to reach out socially, because just a few weeks ago they used to be one way and now they're really trying to make a change so that they don't repeat their past into their future. So that upsets the apple cart. Give people a degree of grace. Give people some understanding for that communication loop. When you get that message out there, that you have an encoding, as I've said, but when you receive it, there's a decoding that you have to do. You have to dissect and give grace. Also, hold them accountable. Know that encoding is really your responsibility of how you say it. Decoding is the listener's responsibility. I'm going to put it out there as best as I can. The people that are decoding it, if they love you, will decode it in a positive way. The people who have more issues with you are going to have baggage that they're going to throw into your language that you never intended. I see this a lot in this victim culture we have out there. People would rather play the victim cards. Oh, well, you hurt my, and you don't understand. And all I'm talking about is puppies. Don't look for tripwires and landmines, my friends. You're just going to harm yourself later. It's not going to help the person who's trying to speak. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to help you. So you have to be open to that. So you have to be open to the observation of what you see, which is part of the decoding, and behavior of what they're doing as well. All right. So in conclusion, remember, I've got this seminar coming up next month. You can get more information on it at ivorchester.com, as well as at the Had Enough Guy on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. I'd love to hear from you and any insight that you have if you have questions. Next week, we're going to continue this thought as we begin to wrap up the social handles concept. Until then, thanks for your patience today. This was session 3 as we got through some serious technical issues, but I'm determined. I'm not going to give up, and I don't think you should either. Keep it up. Stay in touch. We'll see you out there. God bless.